Let's bring the map here and put together the geography of this attack. I'm standing down here near the Eiffel Tower. You see the U.S. Embassy along the way, and then the address we're talking about is down at the other end there. And let's zoom in a little bit closer to take a look at these buildings. The indication is that at about 11:30, that's when this car came from the east up the street to the front of this building. And you see the red dot that we put on the building right there? That's where these workers were who were encountered by the gunman who asked them, where exactly is this office? They were told that it was on the second floor of this building. One of the workers was then shot, and the gunman went inside where they had their first encounter with police, actually, an officer in the room who was killed. Then, when they came back out, they came out with their guns firing. See the little yellow dot we put on here? That yellow dot indicates where the camera was that shot this video, somebody on a rooftop. So you get a sense of where they were pointing down the street, and you can see the gunmen coming out with their guns blazing down on that corner down there. Now, they turn and they start heading up this street, and as they head up this street, another camera picks them up. This is the other view that you've been seeing all day. They're pointed the exact opposite direction of the first camera, and this one captures this view, the standoff with police officers, where they simply stop in the middle of the street. The two gunmen get out on either side and start shooting at that police car that is blocking their way. We've talked a lot about the precision and the discipline of these gunmen. There are 15 to 16 shots put by these people down here into the middle of the windshield of that police officer. No one was hurt in this exchange, but this is the second time they've encountered police, and once again, they get past them. Third time is a bicycle officer that they encounter very shortly after this, and then we rotate around. Take a look at that big green swath through the middle there. You see that huge piece of boulevard running right through there? That is where they finally have their last encounter with a police officer in all of this. That yellow spot right there. You see, not very far at all from where it all began, and that is where this video was shot, the terrible video of the officer on foot who is attacked by the two men who get out of the car. They essentially stalk him and they kill him on the sidewalk here. Then, Jake, they finally get back in the car. They take off again. They're headed toward the north and slightly to the west after this shooting is done. And they actually go a fair distance. If you look back at the map here, the distance that they're going to cover after that takes them about what would normally be a 12-minute drive away from that spot where it all began. You look at the red spot there, they ended up way up in here, about 12 minutes away before they crashed their car, then try to drive a little bit more, can't, hijack another car, and then they disappear. So an awful lot of activity in a limited space and 4 separate encounters with police each time the gunmen shot their way through.
I'm going to show you some footage of the Charlie Hebdo shootings, which has been restricted or taken down from a number of websites. As you'll see, it contains no blood, gore, or graphic violence. It does, however, punch a major hole in the official story. You can draw your own conclusions. The following clip was played on France 24. You'll notice in the middle, a section is edited out.
Des coups de feu en plein Paris. Deux hommes viennent d'abattre un policier. Il est 11h30 ce mercredi. Armés et cagoulés, les deux hommes repartent. Ils revendiquent leur acte.
Let's look at the clip that was edited out. Now if we zoom in and slow it down, you'll see that the officer isn't actually hit by a bullet. There's a blast that hits the sidewalk just in front of him, but he is clearly not hit in the head as corporate media is claiming. Let's watch it again. Notice that the head isn't rocked by the blast as it would be if he was actually hit. Notice the plume of dust about a foot in front of him as the shot hits the ground. This is an AK-47. A hit to the head would splatter blood and brains all over the sidewalk. Anyone who claims that this footage shows someone being hit in the head by a 7.62 by 39mm round either has no experience with guns or is lying. This is a big bullet that does massive damage and makes a bloody mess. This officer was not killed by a gunshot to the head. My first thought here was, okay, they missed. Just one problem. Every single mainstream media outlet is claiming that he was finished off with a shot to the head, and that's blatantly false. So then you have to ask, what else are they lying about? Funny thing is, these guys went to the trouble to put on ski masks, but for some reason, according to the authorities, they left an identity card in the getaway car. That's how the perpetrators were identified. Really? Come on. The other funny thing, the suspects wound up dead, so case closed. Now, I'm not going to claim to know what really happened here, but we are being lied to, and lies like this mean trouble is coming.
Just ask yourself, when you look at this footage, would you be brave enough to stand in a window and film, 50 feet away or 100 feet away, guys with an AK-47? At any minute they could just spot you, turn that gun on you and start shooting at you. I mean, even if you were brave enough and stupid enough to do that, what you wouldn't do is that. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't point your camera and film that guy and take your eyes off those two. You just wouldn't do that. You'd have, if you were brave enough to film this out your window, and I don't think anyone would be. Everyone would be just cowering, locking their doors, thinking, "Oh my God, I hope they're not going to come in here and kill me." But let's just say you were brave enough to film it. You wouldn't take your eyes off them and film this guy here. You'd keep your eye on the guys with the guns, because at the moment they suddenly pointed the gun up towards the window where you were. You'd be wanting to duck down pretty quick. It's just nonsense. People really need to engage their brains when they look at stuff like this.
Some viewers may find the following footage disturbing. Doubts have been raised over the authenticity of the Charlie Hebdo footage. A video clip broadcast by news agencies across the world in relation to the recent events in Paris is now under scrutiny. According to analysts, the footage was recorded over 2 takes, evidenced by a placement marker that appears by the front left wheel of the vehicle as the gunman returns from apparently gunning down the wounded gendarme. The killing of the French policeman is also being called into question, due to the lack of blood splatter consistent with a close-range shooting. After the gunman's weapon is heard to discharge, no trauma or impact appears to occur. Forensic and ballistic expert David Mayhew commented, "If the video shows events as they actually occurred, then in my opinion it is most likely that the firearm shown is discharging blanks rather than conventional ammunition."
The blood on the ground which is put there, the blood on the ground which is put there, the blood on the ground which is put there.
With the general consensus among not just skeptics, but some major news agencies, that the entire event was a false flag attack.
John Brain, BBC News.